Now back to Tony Schumacher. Long winless streak. Winningest guy in history. What's in his mind?
Well, they're on the upswing. Tony Schumacher is coming up to this starting line having more confidence than he has had all year. He talked a little junk a couple of weeks ago. They were able to back it up, didn't finish the job, but they got to the final round. So he knows the performance is there. He's resting a slight favorite in Doug Coletta.
Well, any two these drivers come together. Images of the championship lost by Doug Coletta when Tony Schumacher made the run back in 2006. Pickpocketed the former USAC sprint car driver from winning a championship. E3 spark plug side Doug Coletta. All access Tony Schumacher. And the first round win of the day belongs to the Sarge as he goes 3.788 seconds. His best run of the weekend by 500. That's his dad, the Don, who likes to see his son go on.
We can take a look at Doug Coletta on the right. Both these drivers are carefully staging. Slight advantage off of the starting line by Doug Coletta, but it appeared that a cylinder was out. Doug Coletta's car was not running on full power. The Army car, a flawless run, the best of the weekend, half a car.
Lucas Oil Photo Finish Cam shows you what a 2/100th of a second margin of victory for the U.S. Army looks like. 3 of Steve Torrance's 7 Top Fuel national event wins have come against Tony Schumacher, but the Army crew had low ET of round number 1. Wonder if that has got the Capco crew's attention, Jamie.
Well, one thing that does not have the attention of Steve Torrance right now is the tune-up of his race car. If you look inside of the cockpit, they took the dash out of it. The reason being was he was getting distracted. It was getting in his head. It's now a picture of his happy place so he can focus.
That's a hunt stand. But Tony has tire smoke, and Torrance blows it up. Nothing spectacular about that, but plenty of excitement from the hit of the throttle until Tony crossed the finish line first.
We could see Tony Schumacher off to an early lead. That wet fuel out of the pipe. It almost looked like Steve Torrance was going to start to close that gap, but then he had engine troubles, and for the Army car, they were off to the races. You could see the deceleration when this car, just before it blows up, Steve Torrance's head goes forward, experiences negative G's, and well, pop goes the wheel.
As Clay backs up alongside with Tony Schumacher, we check in down on the starting line with Bruno Massa.
I got up with Clay back in the pits, and there was a big crash going on in his. They did is broke a head stud. They didn't discover it until late. He said they wasted a lot of time trying to get it out, but he was assured they would get it done, got a new motor in place. He told me he felt pretty confident in his tune-up and in Grubby's himself. He said he's gone 5 straight 380s. He said, why can't I just make 2 more? Is that too much to ask for?
Absolutely not. For Clay Millican, no driver in the NHRA started more races without a win, and he's going up against the class best in Tony Schumacher. Side-by-side margin of victory, 0.009 of a second to Tony Schumacher. Winless in more than a year, Mike Green will give that man, Tony, the opportunity to exercise a big-time demon. That one was close, Tony. Wow.
Well, you can see both of these cars launch, and Clay Millican did everything he could to keep up with Tony Schumacher. In fact, to 300 or 400 feet, these cars, you could throw a blanket over them. The biggest difference was Tony Schumacher's car was going 3 miles an hour faster, and right at the finish line, the Lucas Oil Photo Finish Cam by a wheel.
Tony Schumacher is on to his class-leading 141st Top Fuel final round by the narrowest of margins. 3rd time in 2016. He will have an opportunity to become a first-time winner this year. Kind of stunning to think that Tony Schumacher is on a winless schneid. Let's go to the top end. Check in with John Kernan.
You know, Dave, over the last couple of months, Tony Schumacher has been telling me that when it gets really hot, this car is going to perform really well. Well, it's pretty hot today. Let's watch out for your car. Tony, going back to another final, a chance to break that winless streak.
Well, no question about it. It was hot earlier. We ran low ET in the 70s. We ran better when it was sunny out than we just did right there. We put a cylinder out. That thing sounded awful rough from half track on. But for the Army car, Pennzoil and everyone at 511 Tactical, again, they stick with me through the rough times. And when these times get good, they'll be along for the ride, too. So it's just so cool to be up in the mountain. This place is fantastic. And Fox Live, you just can't beat this. This is a beautiful day to go out and win a race.
Well, Tony, the big story in Antron Brown and J.R. Todd is the fact that AB is full.
And the thrash now nearly complete for Tony Schumacher's Army team as they get ready for their final round matchup against Antron Brown. The car is already ready. You're going to need Tony in for the warm-up in just a minute. But, Tony, you've had a rough day. You started off with Doug Coletta, then Steve Torrance, then Clay Millican, now Antron Brown. As a driver, How do you get yourself ready for that?
I don't think it's a rough day. I think it's a gratifying day. The trophies that sit on our shelf, and there's 80 of them, the ones that we've beaten those guys, those are the ones that mean the most. Running a Coletta car first round, that's been an adversary of ours since the beginning of time, and we've had more big battles probably than any team out here. So it was exciting. I talked this morning during our speech, and I said, this is when you have to sit up in the seat from the beginning. And it makes the crew chief do things that he may not have done normally. So he did a great job going on. We ran low ET first round with the sun out against the Coletta car, and we still continued the process. So we're going to have to go out there and run good. We know Antron has a good car. He's on a winning streak. He's an outstanding driver, and we need to cowboy up right now. We've got to get in that Traxxas shootout.
You mentioned those 80 wallies he has at home. He's looking for his first one of 2016.
Cars roared alive. It's the final of the event, and it features Tony Schumacher up against the reigning champion Antron Brown. So happens to be the last two drivers to sweep the swing. How do you sweep the swing? Win all three. It's only happened 7 times in history. For Tony Schumacher, consider the fact that he, Tony Pedregon, started from the number 9 qualifying position, but Mike Green's just kept whittling away.
Well, when you talk about Tony Schumacher, he has not had a good car prior to the last 3 or 4 races. So in my opinion, his driving wasn't that great. But Tony Schumacher is a very decorated top fuel champion, and he's racing, I'm going to call him steady money, because Antron, whether it's the first round, whether he has a soft opponent, he is always good. But I see Tony Schumacher and this Army team stepping it up. They have some momentum. I'm not going to call this race because both these drivers are even. These tuners are racing the racetrack right here. So once again, you never know. It could go down right on that starting line.
If Antron Brown can win, he would increase his lead in the points in top fuel as he goes in search of his 4th win of the season. Tony Schumacher, his first in more than a year. Keep in mind, for Tony Schumacher, additional at stake. One more automatic entrance to the Traxxas Nitro Shootout. Shot at $100 grand in Indianapolis. Tony Schumacher's going to punch his ticket. His 3rd win here in Denver, but first in more than a year. Yeah, it's his class-leading 81st, but look at the relief on the faces of the U.S. Army crew. While they celebrate at the starting line,
another driver who has made his mark in his category. He's got 81 victories in Top Fuel, the winningest in the sport for a Top Fuel driver, Tony Schumacher. Congratulations, Tony. You've told me time and time again it's going to happen. I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to force it, and today it happened. What was the difference today?
I'm not going to lie, I was starting to worry. But, no, our team's just qualified. They're the best there is in the world. And sometimes to win a championship, you got to take a step back, make some big changes. It's the adversity. It's being able to dig. It's having an educated group behind you that can look at the situation, make the changes that are necessary. But you know what made the change today? Running a Coletta car first round. There is nothing more difficult than that. And I'll tell you what, when you got to sit up in the seat first time and the crew chief has to do a great job, the fans got to see a great show from the first push of the pedal. We had a great time, man. So for all the people that waited a year to watch that happen, we love you guys. Great group to be with here. Awesome.
Hey, Tony, one last question for you. You know, coming up here to the mountain, you have to change a lot. What can you take away here and bring to our next stop?
Well, we'll take away the trophy. And what I said is, when you win this trophy, you can't sweep the Western Swing without winning the first one. And even if we don't sweep the Western Swing, we keep everyone else from doing it. So this was an important one. We got in the Traxxas shootout, which was incredibly important. I know for John, too. And we had to run our teammate in the finals. Man, there's nothing more difficult than racing someone you help to train and help to teach.
All right, guys, we get our champions lined up here right now. And a round of applause for our champions, everyone.